We are going into April, which is a month all about new starts and rebirth, which I don't know about you, but some of my January goals could already maybe do with a bit of a refresh. This is a month where there are a couple of really big readathons and reading challenges kind of coming back around. I know that a lot of us are going to be doing the Our Fantasy Bingo, which comes out on the 1st. That means that this month's books are really exciting because those are the books that I'm going to be the most interested in as I hear about these new prompts. They're the books that are probably the most likely to get read for them and the ones that I'm really interested in learning more about. The first book on this list is one I am particularly excited to share with you. This is Vile Lady Villains by Danai Christopoulou. I have actually been following this author on Instagram since I think this book was maybe still in the editing process. I was around for her announcement when she found her agent, when she found her publisher, for the cover reveal, and I've been really excited about reading this story right from those little snippets and hints pre-agent days. This is a sapphic historical romance that takes two of the greatest villains from literary history. We have Lady Macbeth and Clytemnestra from Greek mythology. In this one, they sort of stumble into each other's worlds and then have to decide whether or not to work together or separately, to follow the paths that are set out for them or to create something new. This is pitched as a horrormancy, which seems like something I would really like. I've really enjoyed some of the cozy horrors I read last year. I really enjoy gothic literature, which tends to have that quite romantic tone to it. So horrormancy seems like it really should be something right up my street. With the consequences of her murderous actions closing in, Lady Macbeth turns to the three witches for help. She's given a brew that transports her to an unknown realm. Desperately lost, she opens a door and comes face to face with a beautiful woman drenched in blood. Clytemnestra, Queen of Mycenae, is exacting bloody vengeance on her husband. Yet, as she revels in her triumph, an otherworldly door appears and a strange woman steps in. Thinking this stranger is a spirit, she chases Lady Macbeth into the realm of stories. Hunted by screaming wraiths into worlds that are hellbent on their demise, this murderous pair are forced to form an alliance or perish. Yet the realm's goddess, the mistress of the House of Books, claims to hold the key to saving them. But can they trust this ancient goddess? As every threat brings our vile lady villains closer, turning ill intentions into fiery attraction that no author dare write, they have to remain within the confines of their original tales, or burn down the world to pen a new story together. Then on April 7th we have We Call Them Witches by India Rose Bauer. This is being pitched as a queer apocalyptic horror for fans of T. Kingfisher. And if you've been around here for any time at all, you know that I am a huge T. Kingfisher fan. I love both her fantasies and her horrors, and honestly putting Kingfisher as a comp title here is pretty much guaranteed that I am at the very least going to be checking this one out. This is another sapphic story, but this time we have witches at the forefront, a sort of dystopian paranormal Britain, and I think this one could be a lot of fun. And not to be shallow, and I don't know if this is the British cover or the US cover, so I might need to do some digging to make sure that I get the one I want. But there's a fox on this cover, and I love foxes. Nearly everyone died the first night they came. 2 years ago, monstrous beings tore through Britain, leaving few survivors. Now, Sarah and her family live on the run, relying on scraps of folklore and fading pagan rituals to stay safe from the eldritch creatures they call witches. While her mother grows increasingly paranoid, Sarah longs for something more than fear. Then a strange girl appears in the garden of their current camp. Her name is Parsley, and she cannot remember where she came from or why she's there. Despite her family's suspicions, Sarah feels drawn to her. But when Sarah's younger brother is taken by the witches, she and Parsley must cross desolate moors full of merciless terrors to get him back. As their bond deepens, so do the dangers they face, and Sarah begins to question whether anything is truly as it seems. In a world ruled by myth and terror, trust is the only thing more dangerous than the witches themselves. Also on April 7th, we have, personally for me, an auto by author. This is Alexis Hall's new book, Never After. Alexis Hall writes across so many different genres, and I love almost, in fact, probably everything I've ever read from them, and I've read a lot. This one is a firmly historical fiction, alien romance, and honestly, historical fiction on its own without some kind of speculative element isn't something I've been reaching for a lot lately, but it's Alexis Hall. I will be checking this one out. On the grim streets of London, a young man succumbs to his demons. Discarded by his lover and left penniless and alone, Micah Dashwood uses sex to pay the bills and opium to numb the pain. But when a sudden illness strikes, all seems lost. But hope finds Micah in the shape of the Reverend Thomas Mandeville. Haunted by grief of his own, Thomas cannot bear to ignore another man's plight. He brings the ailing Micah home to heal in his parish at Nettlefield. As Micah recovers under Thomas's care, he begins to realise that some people in this world are worthy of trust. Thomas, in turn, learns the truth of his own needs and desires. Between the secrets of the past and the burdens of the present, their future together seems impossible. Questions of faith and the shadow of opium continue to haunt them both. Yet possibilities, like miracles, can be found wherever you look for them. Also on the 7th, we have Marissa Meyer's new book. This is The Escape Game. I've loved everything I've read from Marissa Meyer before. The Lunar Chronicles was fantastic, a real genre blend that at the time was sort of genre defying. I had never seen YA, retelling, sci-fi all combined in one, and an epic series that concluded really well. Just in January, I read The House Sapphire, which was her take on a Bluebeard retelling, and I had a great time. This is the first one where I've seen her working with a co-writer, so I'm not saying that makes me anxious, but it does mean that I am a little bit more interested to see how that's going to play out, whether that nudges her work maybe more YA or more adult. But this one is based around the idea of an escape room, a locked room mystery, and I do love me a locked room mystery. It's all fun and games until someone ends up dead. 6 months ago, season 4 of The Escape Game ended in horror when contestant Angelica Angelos was found murdered on set. Now season 5 is underway and new contestants are ready to put their skills to the test, solving the show's trickiest escape rooms. There's Addie, the cryptographer, Carter, the math whiz, Beck, the wannabe game master, and Sierra Angelos, the girl who got away with her sister's murder, or so everyone believes. But Sierra's not just here to win, she's here for justice. When the contestants begin uncovering clues that hint at the identity of Alicia's true killer, it becomes clear that the stakes aren't high in this competition. They're deadly. If these teens want to win and survive the game, they must solve the biggest mystery of who killed Alicia Angelos. Sticking with April 7th, we have a sequel for a book that I personally haven't read the first book yet. This is Rites of the Starling by Devney. It is the sequel to Shield of Sparrows, which is one of the few romantasy books that I have really seen doing the rounds on Book Talk and not getting really any criticism. It's one that seems to be universally beloved, and I do mean to get to it, I do. I think if I do pick this one up, I would probably want to read them both pretty much back to back, so I need a month where I have time for that. Calandra's 5 kingdoms are on the verge of destruction. The Crux migration is coming. And in the wake of a devastating attack, I've been separated from the man who owns my heart. I'm lost, terrified, homesick, hunted by monsters, driven to exhaustion, and kidnapped by a powerful priest. The only thing keeping me going is the little girl counting on me to keep her safe. It's my turn to become the guardian. Our lives change one fateful night, a night of death, a night of monsters, a night of truth. That night I learned the real meaning of fear and the depth of my own strength. Everyone wants me to be something I'm not, a queen, a spy, a sacrifice. But what if I embrace my crown? What if the secrets I uncover save our realm? What if my sacrifice means salvation for the man I love? For too long I've feared the monsters we make. It's time to discover the monster within. Finally, moving out of that first week of the month, this one comes out on April 14th. This is West of Wicked by Nikki St. Crowe. Now, I am a huge fan of The Wizard of Oz. I'm a massive fan of Wicked the musical, and I've loved the Wicked movies. One of my goals this year is actually to reread Gregory Maguire's Wicked book, which I read when I was a teenager, and I despised that book. But I think maybe it just wasn't the right moment, and I do want to reread it and give myself another chance to fall in love with that world through the book rather than the play or the musical. And then I can continue in that series because there's another 3 books, and I would really like to have more time in that world because I do love that expanded Oz. This is another option for that. If Wicked just isn't for me, then maybe I could embrace more stories set in Oz through other authors. I have tried some in the past and they just didn't work for me, but I think that maybe this might be the one that does it. It's pitched as an adult book, which I think is going to be important as the other ones I've tried have been YA and just haven't scratched that itch of seeing something darker this world has the potential for. If I want the lighter fairy tale angle, I'll go with the original Wizard of Oz books. I don't always love dark romance, but it might be just what I want from this particular retelling. Dorothy Gale doesn't know where she came from. She has only the vaguest memory of her life before landing in the dull grey world of the vast Kansas prairie. Then a cyclone rips through the night and carries her, her dog, and the farmhouse somewhere a lot further than Dorothy imagined. She's in a strange land that's apparently cursed, shrouded in shadow. And to get home, Dorothy needs to seek out a wizard, following a treacherous path, and watch out for never-ending lists of forest beasts, witches, a cursed mercenary, and perhaps most dangerous of all, the wizard himself. Then we have a cozy fantasy. This is Stay for a Spell by Amy Coombe. Cozy fantasies are something that I really enjoy, I really love, but I have a really specific balance of cozy and stakes that needs to be right. Sometimes I find that the coziness, the vibe, if that's all there is, it doesn't pull me through the story. I need some kind of plot to propel me forward, but I do enjoy the cozy atmosphere and all that, you know, vibey coffee shop, bookshop world. The fact that this one also has that more traditional fantasy angle of princesses and royalty and are they going to do their royal duty or live the life they want adds that sort of classic feel to it that I think I might enjoy. Princess Tannadale of the Windemar is disillusioned with life as a princess. She longs for real conversation, the chance to build a life of her own making, and uninterrupted reading time. During a routine royal visit to the town of Little Pepperidge, Tandy's dream comes true when she finds herself cursed to remain in a rundown bookshop until she unlocks her heart's desire. Certain that someone will figure out how to break the curse eventually, and delighted by the prospect of an entire bookstore of her own, Tandy settles into life among the stacks. She finds it easy to exchange balls and endless state dinners for teetering piles of books and an irritatingly handsome pirate who seems bent on stealing her stock. She even starts to believe she stumbled into her very own happily ever after. There's just one minor problem. As Tandy's royal duties go unfulfilled, her frantic parents start sending princes to woo her, each one of them certain their kiss will break the curse. After all, what more could a princess want but a prince? Moving on to April 21st, we have one that I have had this cover saved on my phone for a while now. I've been really excited about it and I want to remind myself to pick it up. This is Honor and Heresy by Max Francis. It's been pitched as a dark academia horror. And I always love the aesthetic of dark academia. I love the idea of it, the vibe, the mood boards. But something about those books, it just doesn't click for me. And I have long accepted that books, no matter how amazing they sound, no matter who the author is, If it's dark academia, I'm probably not going to enjoy it, so I just don't pick them up anymore. But this one has that horror aspect thrown in, and from the sound of the blurb, there's going to be a lot more action than I've found dark academia tends to have, and I think that kind of pacing is what I personally as a reader need. A little bit like with the cozy fantasies. This is a queer Achillean story, and I'm just really excited about this one, okay? Roy Donsive, the prospective heir to Donsive Manor, cares more for philosophy than battle. However, in a society that shuns literature and promotes violence, his fate is compromised. But Roy is given a choice. He can either brave the front lines and fight the Old Ones, the mysterious black-armoured soldiers invading Northgard, or he can investigate their identity in the Orphic Basilica, an ancient abandoned library. When Roy chooses to unravel the mystery, it soon becomes clear that the Orphic Basilica isn't without its own horrors. Strange voices echo down the halls, ghosts with burning red eyes roam the bookshelves, and those who stepped foot in the library have either emerged insane or were driven to their own demise. Roy's only companion, and his partner in the investigation, is Percival Atherton, a manipulative, enigmatic and distractingly charming scholar who has no qualms about belittling Roy. As a fierce snowstorm sinks its claws into the city, isolating them from civilization, Roy and Percival must grapple with their tormented pasts, an unexpected romance, and an age-old conspiracy whose secrets are certain to wipe Northgard from history. Filled with all the yearning of rivals to lovers, the intrigue and fear of dark academia, and the wonder and discovery of an epic fantasy, Honour and Heresy is ultimately a story of self-discovery amid the chaos of war and a long, cold winter. Now, I did not so long ago just say that historical isn't usually my bag, but this one, Thistlemarsh by Moorea Corrigan, has enough of a fantasy element that I think I'm going to really enjoy it. It seems like it's going to be one of these really dreamy fantasies, lots of lyrical prose, maybe quite slow on the pacing, but a really immersive world. And just look at the cover. It's stunning, and I need to own it. Welcome to Thistlemarsh, a ramshackle estate where an impoverished orphan and a beguiling fairy collide in an enchanting novel of love, revenge, and ruin. In the wake of World War I, the world is a decidedly unmagical place for Mouse Dunn. She once dreamed of being a fairy anthropologist, but with one telegram her world shattered. At the Battle of the Somme, her cousin's body disappeared into the mud, and her brother was left with debilitating shell shock. It was time, she knew, to put aside childish dreams. When Mouse receives news that her uncle has left her the fairy-blessed Thistlemarsh Hall, a dilapidated manor in the English countryside, she must leave her brother's side and return to her childhood home to claim her birthright. But there is a catch. If Mouse does not rehabilitate the crumbling house in 1 month's time, she will forfeit her inheritance and any hope of caring for her brother. It quickly becomes clear it's impossible to repair the manor in the allotted time, until a mysterious fairy appears with a proposition. He offers to restore Thistlemarsh for a price. Mouse knows better than to trust a fairy, especially one so insufferably handsome and arrogant. But she is out of options. There are dark and magical forces at work in the house, and Mouse must confront the ghosts of her past and the secret of her heart, or lose Thistlemarsh and herself in the process. And for these last three, we are jumping right to the end of the month. These are all coming out on the 28th. The first is A Murder Most Camp by Nicolas DiDomizio. This sounds like a really crazy, quirky, wild contemporary. I think it's got elements of maybe a cozy mystery to it, but it definitely sounds like it's going to be all about the characters, all about the voice, all about some of the wild goings on. This is about a Nepo baby who is forced to work at a summer camp to, you know, prove himself, and stumbles upon a real life mystery in the process. Rustic cabins, lakefront bonfires, a painfully hot lifeguard, and a murder. Summer has never been this camp. Mickey Hartford IV has coasted through his 20s in a distracted blur of yachts and sex and partying. But when his father discovers his latest $1 million impulse buy and changes the terms of his trust, the party's finally over. Now, unless Mickey can make a positive contribution to the world before his 30th birthday, one that doesn't involve throwing cash at his problems. He'll never see another yacht again, or even so much as a canoe. Camp Lore, a struggling summer camp in upstate New York, where Mikey has to work as the oldest, least qualified staffer to prove that he can do good alongside his 12-year-old aunt. Yes, aunt. But Mikey isn't sure he'll be able to survive the camp's ramshackle living conditions, let alone the gaggle of preteens who won't leave his side. And when his campers become obsessed with a local legend set at an abandoned camp on the grounds, Mikey's chances of not making it through the summer become dangerously real. Because it turns out there's a murder hidden beneath Camp Lore, and someone there will stop at nothing to keep it that way. Solving a decades-old cold case will surely be enough good for Mikey to earn his inheritance. He just has to live long enough to do it. Then we have The Duke by Anna Cowan. This is one that I have been seeing for a long time. It's kind of been coming for a while. And this is your traditional Regency romance. So I know I said I don't read historicals, but this is your traditional Regency romance, but set in a world where women are just as likely to hold those titled positions as men. So in this, our rakish cad is actually a woman, Cat, the Duke of Howard. This seems like it's going to do Bridgerton and those classic Georgette Hare romances my mum read, but with a new queer angle to it, a bit of feminism, a lot of courtly intrigue. It sounds like something that could be really, really good. Set in a world of powerful female nobles and the women who love them. Kate, Duke of Howard, is known throughout Europe as a merciless autocrat not to be crossed. Consumed by a bitter rivalry, she avoids society and has vowed never to trap a woman into marriage with a monster like herself. The beautiful, ambitious courtesan Celine Gannett once threw herself on the mercy of the visiting Duke of Howard. She was desperate to escape the guillotine, but after a night of searing passion, the Duke left her to the ravages of revolutionary Paris and didn't look back. Now Celine is in London and in possession of a dangerous letter that proves the Duke of Howard committed treason as a child, and possibly even murder. Celine wants a titled husband in return for keeping the Duke's secret, leaving Kate no choice but to parade her around the most fashionable ballrooms. But as Celine takes society by storm, Kate finds herself growing fond of the women set on destroying her. And as their attraction mounts, Kate faces an impossible choice: to keep her childhood secret or win the women she loves. And the last book that I have kind of bookmarked for this month is We Burn So Bright by TJ Klune. I know TJ Klune has a massive following, and not to be too hipster about it, but I read a lot of his older work, and honestly his newer, cozier books, Cerulean Sea, Whispering Door, I actually think I preferred when he wrote his quirky queer contemporary romances, and I adore his fantasy The Tales of Verania series. So his newer releases I'm always a little bit skeptical about, but this one seems that while it's definitely leaning in that bittersweet world of the likes of Cerulean Sea, I think maybe it's got a little bit of a darker edge to it, and this might go back to some of those books that I personally really enjoyed. Husbands Don and Rodney have lived a good long life. Together they've experienced the highest highs of love and family, and lows so low they felt like the end of the world. Now the world is ending for real. A wandering black hole is coming for Earth, and in a month everything and everyone they've ever known will be gone. Suddenly, after 40 years together, Don and Rodney are running out of time. They're in a race against the clock to make it from Maine to Washington State, to take care of some unfinished business before it's all over. On the road, they meet those who refuse to believe death is coming and those who rush to meet it. But there will also be people living their final days as best they know how. Impromptu weddings, bright burning bonfires, shared meals, and new friends. And as the black hole draws near, among ball lightning and under a cracked moon in a kaleidoscope sky, Don and Rodney will look back on their lives and ask if their best was good enough. Is it enough to burn bright if nothing comes from the ashes? So there you have it. Those are the books that I personally am the most excited about in April. Now, I always say with these videos that these are books I personally am excited to read. These videos are not meant to be a comprehensive list of all the books that are coming out this month. So if the book that you are most excited about in April isn't on this list, then please do let me know what it is in the comments and why you're excited about it. Maybe I'll add that to my own personal TBR too. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope I'm going to see you in the next video. Goodbye.